Greetings, my fellow film lovers and sovereign thinkers. This is L3's newest podcast. My name is Craig, transmitting from the beautiful Swampy Mango, South Florida, and today's date is Tuesday, May 28th, 2019. So let us begin. Good day, folks. Thank you for tuning in. Hope you all had a great weekend. Pretty quiet myself. Had to do a couple jobs. It's all good. Welcome to the entertainment industry, right? Yeah, I'm at Stash, located at 109 Southwest 2nd Avenue in the heart of the Hemisphere District of Fort Lauderdale, adjacent with Revolution Live in America's Backyard. Yeah, so just doing a little browsing as usual. Nothing really spectacular to talk about. Actually, yes, I had a good friend of mine had a 50th anniversary. Louis Amadori, his cover band of Reckless Kind, went down to Kendall at this facility called Cadillac Ranch, which is in the Kendall Town and Country Mall. Man, things have changed. That area used to be a you pick a strawberry field many years ago. Now they're building. Man, what's going to happen when they start to do some agriculture or grow or people need to create more gardens on the roofs, for goodness sakes. Good grief. Nothing new. So I had a good time. A lot of stuff I wasn't really into, but the vibe was nice. Some old friends, folks I haven't seen in years. So it was beautiful. Turned 50. Half a century old. Don't worry about it. It's not embarrassing. Should be proud. A lot of folks I know didn't even make it that far. Don't take it for granted, but blessed. And he should be too, and everyone else that's living right now. Thank you. You should thank yourselves and people that you care for keeping going. Yeah, a lot of crazy times, but we gotta strengthen our spirituality and moral compass. That's what's been happening. This happened not far from here, a shootout. It looks like it's a typical club night, and some people want to harp it. And it looks like one person died and a few are injured. That's what I'm saying. It's not the weapons or the guns or the gun violence. It's the individuals. Have to start looking at themselves. An incident like that, in my view, could have been diffused immediately. Just keep going. This happens It happens everywhere, not just in Fort Lauderdale. Somebody got pride, arrogance, stupidity. Pretty dangerous combo, or mixture, would you say? Most of the time myself, I just blow it off. Have my ordeals at the time. I'm not innocent in my history, but I try not to make it a burden. You got a lot to live, folks. Value it. Yes, use force when it's necessary. I'm not gonna argue on that. But the morose thing is, a lot of folks out there need to enjoy life, love your neighbor, including the patrons at the facility. Get bumped in now and then, so what? But if you're looking for a fight or need to cut one, take it away from everybody. Away from the crowd, because you're contaminating space. Plain and simple. Enough of that rant. So, a few things that's like real curious looking at. This one came from consortiumnews.com. This is mainly on foreign policy. Patrick Lawrence wrote this. The US-China Decoupling. And Patrick Lawrence said in his article, long, dense economic relationship appears to have passed its peak, writes Patrick Lawrence. President Trump's trade war with China is swiftly taking a divisive turn for the worse. Step by step, each measure prompting retaliation spat so far limited to tariff increases now threatens to transform the bilateral relationship into one managed hostility extending well beyond economic issues. To Washington and Beijing divine each other's adversaries as they now appear poised to do, the consequences in terms of global stability and the balance of power in the Pacific are nearly incalculable. The trade dispute continues to sharpen later this week. Beijing is scheduled to raise tariffs already in place on $60 billion worth of American exports, the latest in running series of escalations Washington set in motion nearly a year ago. 2 weeks later, the U.S. having increased tariffs on $200 billion worth of Chinese products earlier this month is to consider imposing levies on an additional $325 billion worth of imports from the mainland. Interesting there. So expect stuff to go up, even at Walmart. The fallout from these mutual imposed taxes on trade will be considerable all by itself. Global supply chains will inevitably be disrupted, a potential threat to worldwide economic stability. U.S. importers are expected to start shifting purchases away from China in favor of alternative suppliers with lower cost structures. American investors are likely to reconsider the mainland as a production platform, in many cases diverting investment dollars elsewhere. For its part, China is already rotating its gaze westward toward the Middle East and Europe, and as if to underscore the point, the East Hope Group, a large Chinese manufacturer, announced late last week that it plans to invest $10 billion in Abu Dhabi industrial sector. Beijing is already drawing Western Europe into its trillion-dollar Belt and Road Initiative. In time, Europe could begin to replace the U.S. as a source of the foreign investment capital China needs. Decoupling. In the financial markets, this process is termed decoupling. The long, dense economic relationship between the U.S. and China, the reasoning runs appears to have passed its peak. With bilateral trade talks stalled, both sides have begun to indicate directly or by inference that they are now prepared to draw blood. Once the long-term damage begins, as appears increasingly likely, it is difficult to see how there will be any turning back from it. 2 weeks ago, the White House issued an executive order barring purchases of telecommunication equipment from any foreign company deemed to pose a threat to U.S. national security. It also requires American companies to obtain licenses before exporting U.S. telecom technology to such firms. While an administration official described the order as a company and country agnostic, it is all but explicitly intended to damage the global position of Huawei, the highly competitive Chinese company that is a leader in cellular telephone sales and 5G telecommunications networks. Huawei has long been in Washington's sight. Chief among the allegations against it, the company is accused of providing China with a backdoor into its telecoms network, allowing Beijing to spy on any entity using Huawei equipment. The U.S. has never provided evidence of this. Both Huawei and Beijing vigorously denied any such arrangement. The only known backdoor in Huawei systems was created by the National Security Agency, which hacked its server at some point between 2010 and 2012. This was revealed in the documents Edward Snowden made public in mid-2013. In effect, the U.S. accuses China of doing what has already done. What we can do is okay. If you do it, it's sacrilege, it's espionage, it is spying, you're the enemy. So it's funny about that. It's called exceptionalism, once again. Remember the bumper sticker from Liberty Stickers said, National Security, NSA, been buying your congressman since 1948. Well, 1952 is one of those things, but it's pretty damn funny. Everyone should go get one. Continue on here. When it comes to policy caprice, motivated by paranoia and the deep state lies, the attack on Hawaii in the class all by itself. David Stockman, the former U.S. House Budget Director, wrote on his blog earlier this month, the whole case has been confected by Washington domiciled economic nationalists who think prosperity stems from the machinations of the state, and that state-sponsored national champions are essential to winning the race for global economic and technological dominance. Contradictory. Contradictory narrative. There's a little question that freezing Huawei out of the U.S. market and depriving it of U.S.-made components will do damage, and in all likelihood lasting to the company. The original group termed the administration's executive order grave escalation with China that a minimum plunges the prospect of continued trade negotiations into doubt. But it has another policy question. The Trump administration is tripping over its own contradictory narratives at this point. Last week, the president suggested that Huawei dispute can be negotiated as part of a broader agreement on trade. At the same time, Dan Coates, National Director of Intelligence, has been crisscrossing the country to warn U.S. companies, universities, and other institutions of the perils of doing business with China. Coates' focus is on the high technology sector. There are two lessons to draw from this spectacle. Trump's position on Huawei gives the game away. If the company is truly a national security threat, it makes no sense to offer it as a chip to be bargained in trade talks with Beijing. Equally, Coates' barnstorming tour is a clear indication that national security apparatus is actively seeking to cast China as a strategic threat to the U.S., as the Pentagon declared to be. In a new defense review earlier this year, Beijing has far shown restraint in its responses, but there are signs if it is stiffening its spine. On Friday, it issued a draft on its own set of tighter regulations governing potential cybersecurity breaches. Xi Jinping has earlier visited a rare earth process facility in Jiangxi province. Hopefully I pronounced that name correctly. A move read as the Chinese leader's subtle suggestion that Beijing may consider blocking exports of minerals that are essential components in a variety of high-tech devices. iPhones. Turning off the supply of rare earths is not the nuclear option. China may consider it as their alternative suppliers. At the same time, the mainland accounts for nearly 3/4 of world supplies. When it blocked sales to Japan during the diplomatic dispute in 2010, prices rose precipitously, and there was mayhem among manufacturers dependent on Chinese supplies. Xi made a remark at Jiangxi that is not to be missed. We are now embarking on a new long march, he said, referencing the famous retreat Mao led after the Chinese nationalists defeated the Red Army in 1934, and we must start all over again. With formal talks lapsed for the time being, there is now no shortage of signaling from either Washington or Beijing, but Xi, China's most assertive leader since the great Helmsman, appears to understand the moment. As large than mere gestures, U.S.-China relations have entered a decisive phase. America cannot win in a long-term confrontation with China unless Washington opens to be more cooperative partnership with Beijing. An unlikely prospect, this could be the moment China begins to displace the U.S. as a preeminent power in the Western Pacific. Yeah, so a little interesting stuff there on that. And it's funny because you got to look at all sides of the bargaining chips and so forth. And there's even stories, too, that the Chinese has always been like... they call it slave labor with all these minerals, and there's even claims too they can use magnesium to substitute it. And another thing you have to look at too, the fault. I know some couple of people I know who are friends of mine that do exporting, and the Chinese government really taxed the daylights out of them. There's even a claim that they owned the name Kiss. The Chinese own the name Kiss. They had all trademark control in that country. But the truth of the matter is, it's been an issue for a long time. There's unfair trades, tariffs, taxing on tariffs. Like there's to be lower and the U.S. has to be higher. So there's a lot of double speak, exceptionalism. It's nothing new at all. But they want to accuse Howie for spying for the Chinese they need to look at themselves in the mirror, because like it's true that Edward Snowden exposed that about the NSA have been spying on everybody. So it's okay for you to do it, but if someone else does it, you have a cow. So this whole game of exceptionalism is a joke. But I know too, hey, like President Trump or not, he was caught in the middle of these things. I'm not going to defend his actions. It was inherited to them, which is true. You people that know me on a show, I'm very critical of him as well. But the whole thing is this. How long will this trade war go? Each nation has its issues. And you can't play double speak. I'm talking about both sides too. They're both politically, governmentally, both sides are very good at that. So, one of those things you got to look at. Make it fair, everyone will benefit. And remember, one thing about China, they do look up Sun Tzu as well, and hopefully the Americans that involved in this entity have that same mindset, because it will be effective. That's why all you folks out there that are just a bunch of Chinese good holics that depend buy anything that's cheap. Let's start with the price rises. Don't complain. Just be ready. As far as I'm concerned, let's do fair trades for all, not just for one side. That's my intake on it. All right, well, next one here came out from intelnews.org. Came out today. And this is here, the Israel leaked video that brought down Australian government, says German ex-spy chief. This is by Joseph Finsanaskis. As it reads here, Israeli intelligence was likely behind the leaked video that brought down the far-right governing coalition in Austria. Oh, excuse me, it's Austria. Forgive me for I said Australia, it's Austria. On Monday, according to the former deputy director of Germany's spy agency, the surreptitiously recorded video was leaked to two German media outlets on May 17th, days before the Austrian voters participated in the continent-wide election for the European Union. In the video, two members of Austria's governing far-right Freedom Party are seen conversing with an unnamed woman posing as a Russian investor. Two men in the video were Heinz Christian Starch, the Freedom Party's leader, and until recently, Austria's Vice Chancellor, Johann Gundens, the party's deputy leader, and a member of parliament. In the video, Gundens and Starch promised to award the woman's firm state contracts if her uncle, a Russian oligarch, purchased an Austrian newspaper and used it to support the Freedom Party. The video threw Austria's political system into disarray and prompted the resignation of both Starch and Gundens. On Monday, Austria's Chancellor Sebastian Kurz was removed from power during the special parliament session in Vienna. But the question, who leaked the video and why? In an article in the Cicero, nice name, Cicero, a monthly political magazine based in Berlin, a former senior official in Germany's Federal Intelligence Service, or BND, argues that Israeli intelligence was probably behind the leak. The article's author is Rodolphe Adam, who served as a deputy director of the BND from 2001 to 2004 before serving as president of the Federal Academy of Security Policy of the German Ministry of Defense. Adam argues that the actions from Starch and Gundens, as shown in the leaked video, seem half mafia-like and half treasonable, and that the two should face legal consequences. But he goes on to ask a far more interesting question, namely, who is behind this intrigue and what were the intentions of this initiators? Adam points out that nothing is known about the woman in the video. She reportedly met Gundens several months before the video was filmed. She posed as a Latvian niece of a Russian oligarch with ties to Russian President Vladimir Putin. In exchange that lasted for several months, the woman told Gundens that she planned to move with her daughter to Vienna and was interested in investment opportunities. She eventually invited him and started to a meeting in the villa in the Spanish resort island of Ibiza. And there was it was there where the video was recorded. Adam points out that the villa in Ibiza appeared to have been fitted with at least 6 hidden cameras in the living room, kitchen, and veranda. During the recording, some of the cameras appeared to rotate, following Starch and Godinez as they moved around the villa. This indicates that the recording was remotely tracked and controlled by a team of technicians who participate in the operation, says Adams. He also points out that even though the video was recorded in 2017, the two men were not even members of the Austrian government. It was leaked to the media in obscure circumstances, just months shortly before the European Union elections, and he asked why the rate. To begin with, Adam points out that the technical aspects of the video, the authenticity of which is not disputed, shows that it is not work of journalists or amateurs. Instead, professional intelligence agents were at work in the Ibiza operation, he says. Operation was carefully planned over a long period with the highest level of professionalism. But why make such a recording than keep it from public view from almost 2 years? The answer is that the video was recorded by someone engaged in long-term strategic thinking with a great deal of foresight, says Adams. The main idea for the timing of the leak may be connected with the European Union elections, specifically as an effort to limit the electoral ascent of Europe's far-right parties, not only in Austria, but in Sweden, Holland, Italy, Hungary, France, Spain, and elsewhere. I'm going to call these far-right groups populists, right? Providing one aspect that a state-run intelligence service was behind the video recording, Israel has a strong political motive to want to curtail the rise of the far-right in Europe, argues Adams. China and the Arabs are not sufficiently interested in domestic Austrian politics to be behind this video, says Adams. While no European intelligence will likely capable of carrying out such an operation, American intelligence services are preoccupied with Iran, China, and North Korea, and the rise of Europe's far right is not a political priority for the administration of the United States President Donald Trump, he says. That only leaves one intelligence agency that has the human and technical capability for such an operation, as well as a clear motive: Israel's Mossad. In addition of the above, the Mossad has many in its ranks who speak fluent Russian and have close contacts with Russia and the countries of the former Soviet Union, says Adam. He concludes his piece by saying that if anyone cares enough to investigate, the operation can be systematically examined and unraveled, just like the recent poisoning of the Russian double spy Sergei Skripal in England. Until then, he says, everything, including this article, is pure speculation, and as such should be taken with extreme caution. Interesting point there, because you always got to look at these things in a bigger picture. And it does make a lot of sense about the cloak and daggering, buying who, buying what. And geographically, Israel is a good spot to get involved in these areas, because it's based in this location. And there's even claimed that Mossad was involved in many other ordeals. It's just a claim, according to this article. But it's always good to question things in good faith. Rogue elements in the guerrilla government are good at trying to get involved in other foreign governmental affairs, a la the United States. Just to give you guys an example. It has a lot of merit. So, we'll just see how far this thing goes. But, I gotta say one thing. How deep does the rabbit hole go, right? Too many people are getting bought off, tattooed, and screwed. Okay. This one here is a couple of articles, mainly from Florida, my home state. And this one here came to Florida Bulldog. And this is by Dan Christensen. Documents courtroom should be open to public in Waste Management's case, Broward Chief Judge says. And as it reads here, citing the public's right to know and understand the impact of Waste Management's $525 million buyout of a competitor on the cost of disposing of trash in Broward, a judge has ordered the company documents regarding federal and state antitrust investigations of the merger deal to be made public. According to Broward Chief Judge Jack Tutter, the transaction has significant consequences for the Broward County waste disposal market and costs borne by the Broward citizenry with respect to waste collection. As such, a correspondence between Waste Management and the antitrust regulatory authorities regarding the subject transaction and the documents that are part of the civil investigative demand are a great import in ensuring transparency of this critical issue. Also on May 8th order, Tutter denied a bid by Waste Management to close the courtroom to the public for an upcoming hearing with many internal corporate documents are expected to be discussed. The purpose of the hearing is to give the multi-billion-dollar trash giant an opportunity to rebut the court's finding last fall that it may have sought legal advice in order to perpetrate a crime or fraud. If so, documents Waste Management is trying to shield on grounds of attorney-client privilege would no longer be confidential. We are gratified at Judge Tutter's decision to protect the public interest in this case, said Fort Lauderdale Attorney General Chris Furtick, who represents Florida Bulldog. Too many important questions about these antitrust reviews remained unanswered. Still, no company documents will become public soon. Attorneys for Waste Management asked for and got a Judge Tutter to stay his order while they repeal. They have 30 days to do so at the 4th District Court of Appeal in West Palm Beach. The action follows Florida Bulldog's formal request to the court earlier this year to unseal numerous records and keep the courtroom open in the complex, heavily litigated case that pits Waste Management, LGL Recycling, formerly known as Sun Cycling, and several LGL's current and former executives against Pembroke Pines-based Bergeron Environmental Recycling. Most notable are documents about regulators' antitrust reviews of Waste Management January 2016 acquisition of the assets of the Sun's recycling parent, Broward-based Southern Waste Systems, or SWS, 50-50 partners. At the time of the merger, Bergeron and Sun were 50-50 partners in a joint venture known as Sun Bergeron, which from the 2013 to July 2018 recycled trash for 17 Broward municipalities. Bergeron Environmental, owned by well-known developer and recent appointee to the governing board of the South Florida Waste Management District, Ron Bergeron, promptly sued, alleging breach of contract and conspiracy and contending that the sale was done behind Bergeron's back. Bergeron contends that the deal gave Waste Management owner the mountainous Monarch Hill landfill North Broward monopolistic control of Broward's waste stream and cost them tens of millions of dollars. The case has marked by an abnormal secrecy, fueling intrigue that has been accentuated by Bergeron's environmental contention that in order to secure its buyout of SWS, Waste Management misrepresented material facts to regulators about how the deal would impact competition for waste disposal and recycling in Broward. Interesting here, right? The secrecy is a result of a confidentiality agreement between the parties that was initially allowed by the court. Corporate defendants often impose confidentiality as a price to obtain discovery of internal company records without a fight. Bergeron's attorney, Mitchell Berger, said he has said in court that out of some of the 99,000 documents produced by Waste Management, only about 300 were not labeled as confidential, meaning about 98,700 documents regarding the company's dealings with local governments and federal and state regulators remain confidential. In opposing for the Bulldogs' motion to open up the records, Waste Management attorney Brian K. Hull argued last month in court papers that secrecy is necessary because the company has produced hundreds of thousands of pages of documents during the course of discovery containing confidential information relating to its business, often without being allotted the necessary time to review the documents in advance. Hull also said that in in a not-so-subtle attempt to push Waste Management's confidential information towards public disclosure, Bergerin's attorneys attached thousands of pages of various unrelated filings in an invitation to a third party like Florida Bulldog to search through the court record and to challenge the closure of those filings. Monvats, however, lacked the good grounds to challenge. Judge Tudor disagreed. After noting Florida's law's strong presumption of public access to court proceedings in their records, he said in a follow-up order that he was removing confidentiality protections of Waste Management's correspondence with the Department of Justice and the Florida Attorney General that were filed with the court, as well as similar correspondence not filled in the court record. The court record orders the same to be produced plaintiffs and shall remain unsealed. He wrote before later staying his order was they announced the appeal. So it looks like Waste Management, a few of these guys, have really something to hide here, right? Secret dispositions of public officials. While Tudor similarly declined to close his courtroom to the public for the as yet unscheduled crime fraud evidentiary hearing, he did in March block this reporter from attending the depositions of public officials, including Broward County Administrator Bertha Henry. By law, the county has a responsibility and power for the operation of solid waste disposal facilities to meet the needs of all unincorporated and unincorporated areas of the county. Broward has also declared a goal of achieving 75% of countywide recycling. Before Tudor's ruling, Florida Bulldog appeared for Henry's scheduled disposition. It was canceled. However, Waste Management lawyers walked out after objecting to Bulldog's presence. Henry was later disposed in secret. The disposition of a Miramar city official scheduled for last week was also postponed. To date, only one confidential Waste Management document has become public. It was explosive. The document is a December 3rd, 2015 letter to Waste Management lawyers from former Attorney General Pam Bondi's office. It says, among other things, that the state antitrust regulators will not block its acquisition of SWS as long as Sun will allow its municipal customers in Broward to extend their recycling deals with Sun Bergerin for another 5 years starting last July. Bondi's office, however, never informed the Broward cities of the letter's existence. Florida Bulldog obtained and published the letter when it suddenly appeared in the court file about a month ago. Before those municipal cycling contracts were sent to expire last year, the court clerk's office has mistakenly made it public. The decision by Bondi's office did not enforce the terms of its letter, resulted in significantly higher recycling costs for local governments last year. Or in the case of Sunrise and Deerfield Beach, at least a temporary end to traditional recycling with certain materials all sorted for reuse. Instead, their recyclables will either be burned in a waste-to-energy incinerator or be dumped in a waste management landfill. There's a lot of other links in here related to this post, so you folks should check it out. My, oh my, oh my. You know what? Open the damn case to the public, including all those documents, because the truth of the matter is, my friends, the people in here have the right to know what the hell is going on. Waste Management has a contract with Broward County. It's things called the Sunshine Law, plain and simple. Open it up, guaranteed under Article 1, Section 26, was it 26? No, 24 of the Florida Constitution. I'm going to have to look that up. I'm just going to look that up along the way, just to verify it. Because one thing I know for sure, my friends, there's a lot more than what it is. And hey, you should know how your taxes are, how the taxes affect it, etc. No ifs or buts, no exceptions. Yeah, right there, boom. Ballotpedia is a good site to check out, folks. Ballotpedia.org. I recommend everyone look it up. And keep it on your files. It's always good to know all sides of stories, especially when you got the dumbed down media don't want you to know. But at least now you can look it up. I'm just going to verify it here. Just should have done that on my show. But forgive me on that, my friends. Most of the time I just wing it. It's always been my life. That's what happened to your stagehand. Yeah, attendance to public records and meetings as Article 1, Section 24 of the Florida Constitution, as it reads, every person has a right to inspect or copy any public record made or received in connection with official business and of any public body, officer, or employee of the state or persons acting on their behalf, except with respect to records exempted pursuant to this section, especially made confidential by this Constitution. So, interesting there. Got this section specifically includes legislative, executive, and judicial branch of the government, and each agency, department created thereunder, counties, municipalities, and districts, and each constitutional officer, board, and commission, or the entity created pursuant to the law of this Constitution. So, and this is mainly, when you look at it, this is mainly private company doing a contract with the county. Yeah, it is public information. I'm not going to add this to the memo, but just to let you folks know, it is legit. So good for Judge Toder, and hopefully the appeal will stand. And I got one more here, and by Mises.org, came out yesterday, and some people in people I talk with are wigging out over about possible teachers can be armed. So you hear all sides, but I like to hear Jose Nino has to say, Florida's new teacher carry law is a decent first step. As it reads here, on May 9, 2019, Florida Governor Ron DeSantis signed SB 7030 into law, which allows school or contract employees to be armed under Florida's new Guardian program. Local district superintendents must appoint these individuals, and they must receive final approval from the school board. On top of that, staff wants to be armed and must complete rigorous training and process a concealed carry license. Training course mandates 144 hours of training, which emphasizes proper firearm usage. Like clockwork, anti-gun commentators sounded off against the legislation, expressing their horror on the prospect of armed teachers. Fierce gun control advocate and 2020 presidential hopeful Eric Swalwell criticized this measure, and he declared more guns is not a solution. Teachers with a gun is not a solution. He said he believes the solution to this dilemma is getting the most dangerous weapons out of the hands of the most dangerous people, period. And then he's some quack. See, this guy here, he's a congressman from California who claimed to be a Christian by faith, but he is not biblically inclined, and plus, he's an Orwellian stooge. I could say Jesus is not his Lord and Savior, but Judas is. Okay, that's all I got to say about Alex Swalwell. If you don't like it, I don't care. I'll continue on here. Naturally, with Florida at the epicenter of the gun control debate after the 2018 Parkland shooting, the passage of the law to arm teachers will stir up heated debate. Despite the hand-wringing from gun control advocates, states that armed personnel on campus are not filled with the rampant cases of gun violence. Research shows that arming teachers is not a disaster in the making. New research published by John Lott's Crime Prevention Research Center shows that schools that allow teachers to carry have not experienced shootings during the school hours. You know that schools allowing teachers to carry have been remarkably safe. One moment here. I'm getting this static here on my headsets. And sorry about that. And it says here, been remarkably safe, and there has yet to be a single case of someone being wounded or killed from a shooting, let alone a mass public shooting at a school, and let teachers carry guns. Law also found the average rate of death or injury from a shooting is 0.039 per 100,000 students across all schools, whereas the rate of death or injury from shooting is 0 per 100,000 with armed teachers. Interesting synopsis there. And you got folks on the other side, they all think it's going to be all crazy. Look, they can't even trust themselves. And I say that in good faith. And a lot of folks got to realize what did Parkland, two things what did Parkland, what happened at Stoneman Douglas and Cullivan have in common. The deputies stood down and they were in firearm-free zones. And the suspects were very distorted, what they call mentally defective. So explain that to me. About you don't want to see people protecting the students. Because like I say, even though the public school teachers, all right, and they got, I'll be very frank, they love their students. They want to see them enhance themselves. They will protect them a lot better than those cowards that stood down. You want to continue that? I'm talking to people, especially the school board from Dade, Broward, and Palm Beach counties. You want to continue that crap? That's pathetic and unmeritable of you. I'm sorry. I just get insulted. Just like they all want to do this whole magic lamp theory. Punish everyone. Well, it says here, as it continues here, a decent step in the right direction. While not an infringement on gun rights, Florida's newly passed law is a marginal upgrade at best. First of all, it still treats the carry of firearms as a regulated privilege where individuals must jump through plenty of hurdles just to exercise a right they supposedly have. However, more fundamental discussion is the nature of federal gun-free zones and school autonomy. On the bipartisan Gun-Free School Zone Act, which was introduced by 2020 presidential candidate Joe Biden, then signed into law by Republican President George H.W. Bush in 1990, the possession of carry firearms within 1,000 feet from a public, private, or parochial elementary and high schools is prohibited. As a result, schools have turned to potential soft targets for those willing to inflict harm. I'll continue on here. We're already witnessing reduced crime rates throughout the nation during the past 3 decades. Even with the increase of per capita gun ownership, crime rates have continued to fall, much to the gun control advocates' dismay. Curiously, mass shootings continue to take place in gun-free zones. Approximately 90% of mass shootings take place in these kinds of venues. Hardly anyone brings up this point, nor do they strike at the root of the problem. 1990 Gun-Free Zones Act. And to be very honest, it is a federal overreach, unconstitutional, and every state in the union can nullify it. Period. Read Fellows Papers 46. That includes the Promise program too. I think the Broward County School Board and any county in the state of Florida should get rid of it completely. How to make schools safe? In an ideal world, 1990 GFSZA should be repealed. However, the solution to school safety is not so much about legislation that arm teachers. Instead, it should be more centered on giving schools the freedom to decide how security services are provisioned in their facilities. If that means arming teachers in the teeth, that is the school's prerogative. However, certain schools would like to prefer to have armed security personnel instead. In a previous article addressing gun-free zones, Jeff Deese notes that there is a market impulse to outsource the service to specialists. Deese draws on the real-world examples to illustrate this point. This is why neighborhoods hire private security patrols and why celebrities hire professional bodyguards. No, not everyone wants to carry a gun or train themselves in gun proficiency. And there is the issue of the skill where individuals might find themselves arrayed against organized criminal gangs. Free societies do not entail one-size-fits-all solutions. They deal with rigorous experimentation and the freedom to voluntarily associate and transact with others. Certain types of arrangements will look differently from others. The key is that people that mutually cooperate with each other on a voluntary basis. In discussions concerning guns at school, teachers, administrators, parents, etc., not politicians or bureaucrats in the faraway jurisdictions like Washington, D.C., should be the ones determining security policies on campus. A good place to start is by allowing local jurisdictions to reassert local control over school safety policy. Although Florida's SB 730 is not a comprehensive reform, it has started a new conversation on how schools can provide safer environment for students. And he's right. Things gotta be happening by steps, my friends. Even when people ask me about these things, I go, it's up to I support it, but it's up to every teacher and individual in these facilities to decide what they want. Go through the training? Absolutely. It's good to know these things. Know what they're going to be carrying. What are their motives? Everyone has a great gift. It can be used in these turbulent moments when it's necessary. Leaving all your security eggs in the hands of one particular area can be very disturbing. And I have examined a great amount of that Stoneman Douglas Safety Committee report, and there were so many fallacies. You can't blame the NRA or Donald Trump. That's absurd and ludicrous, baseless, repugnant. Period. I think this is a great start, and people should know these things when it's necessary. Don't listen to the bobbleheads on the national news, referring from their pathetic teleprompters. Talk to your community staff. Keep it organic. Even lobbyist groups, toss them to the side. Whether it's March for Our Lives, National Rifle Association, etc. But talk to people on a in a more individual basis. Then we can start something better for all of our students' lives and beyond. I'd like to thank everyone for listening. Plus, feel free to download and share us on social media networks. If you have any questions, comments, or you said something interesting I want to check out, whatever you do, please share as correspondences with Decorum. Furthermore, I will leave all my social media sites, info, and email addresses if you want to correspond with me. Alright? Once again, thank you for your time. Plus, always remember that the demoniac resistance is healthy for the soul and can liberate humanity. Until next time, take care of yourselves. Keep on spreading the love, and may your guardian spirits be with you.